mysterious. What started as a peaceful hike through the breathtaking wildflower meadows near Desolation Peak turned into an unforgettable encounter with not one, but two massive Sasquatch. Come along as we recount the thrilling moment when this group of seasoned hikers witnessed these elusive creatures in their natural habitat, displaying behaviors that left them with more questions than answers. This isn't just another Bigfoot sighting. It's a rare glimpse into the lives of these mysterious beings. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button, and let's get into it. Here's Perry's story. I was with a group of 7 hikers, all of whom were and are personal friends. All of us regularly hike together. We were hiking in a line, spaced maybe some 10 or 15 feet apart, at a fairly high elevation nearing our destination of Desolation Peak. We were on a fairly steep slope that was in bloom with thousands of wildflowers, with Ross Lake in view, far below us in the distance. The slope that we were on descends to form what I'll refer to as a valley between it and an adjoining hillside off to our left. Aside from the grass and wildflowers, which gave this area the appearance of an alpine meadow in Europe, everywhere that you looked, there were clusters of what I believe were small spruce trees, none of which I believe are more than 20 to 35 feet tall. Many of them seem much smaller than that. The day was beautiful, with the exception of a haze that was hanging over both the mountain and the lake below us. The haze in no way hindered our ability to see very far in virtually any direction. This entire area is covered in 30% trees, and the rest is all open, meadow-like terrain, which is covered in grass and flowers. The reason I mention all of this is so that you understand that unless something or someone was to deliberately stop to conceal itself in a patch of small trees, it would only be a matter of moments before it would be visible again as it walked. Whenever we as a group get together, there is very little chatter going on among us, because we're all of the same kindred spirit. We hike to get away and immerse ourselves in the natural world, and part of that escape is to leave jabbering behind. We were about 4 hours into the hike, having reached the area that I just described, when Joey, who was taking the lead, had stopped and pointed towards the base of the adjoining slope. "Hey guys, check that out." From our position, we were more than likely 1,000 feet higher, looking down across this valley at 2 figures walking in single file below us on the opposing slope. These 2 figures were both very dark in color from head to toe, and were walking on 2 legs, with what I will describe as a rather unusual type of gait. Both Joey and I were carrying good field glasses. The 2 of us brought both of the creatures into focus, immediately realizing we were looking at 2 Sasquatch. Talking quietly, everyone wanted to have a look at the critters, so we passed the glasses back and forth among us, watching the creatures walk along the slope. With the exception of them passing from time to time behind some of these short trees that I described earlier, we watched them walk for well over 1,000 yards or more. It was at that point when the pair of creatures entered into a small patch of trees but did not come out on the other side. At that moment, we collectively decided to descend the slope keeping ourselves well concealed as we did so, in hopes of getting a closer look at them when they reemerged from the cover of the trees. Having descended the slope, angling ourselves towards where we knew they were, we had now achieved a distance of maybe 500 yards away from them, and we dared not get any closer. It's not that we were afraid, so to speak, but the slope from this point forward was virtually devoid of any further tree cover on our side. Each of us sat, hidden behind a number of trees, waiting and hoping that the Sasquatch would once again show themselves. Our group sat still and watched this patch of trees intently for the better part of an hour, when one of the Sasquatch came darting out of the trees. It was in pursuit of what we could see was some type of small critter running on the ground. Speaking for myself at the time, I thought it was a groundhog or something. After a brief pursuit, it looked to me like the creature stomped on it and killed it. I say this because it stopped running suddenly, and I couldn't see the critter running around anymore. With that, it re-entered the cover of the trees, and some 10 minutes later, both of them came back into view. I put my glasses squarely on them and could see that they were both holding at least several of the same type of animal in their hands. Initially, as we waited, we were all wondering what they were doing in this patch of trees for an hour. However, now we knew they had gone in there for a reason. There was obviously some type of den or burrow in there where they acquired these animals. Perhaps they were waiting at the entrance or even digging it up, which is something we'll never know. What we do know is what we saw. They had come empty-handed and were leaving with both hands full. The two of them casually began to retrace their steps back into the direction from where we had first seen them. Using the average tree height around us as a gauge, I estimated that they were somewhere between 8 and 12 feet tall. Of course, we had no way of really telling, but they were certainly very large, tall and broad. At one point, as they were walking, the one taking up the rear actually kind of swatted the one in front of it on the head with one of the dead critters. To me, it looked very much like a gesture of kidding around, like you or I would do with each other. The entire sighting was obviously something none of us would ever forget. I have to say, up until that point in my life, I haven't really given their existence much thought. Having seen the pictures and heard the stories, it was more or less a meaningless thing to me as to whether or not they did or didn't exist. After that day, my viewpoint and outlook has obviously changed dramatically. These creatures are, in fact, real, and now the 7 of us know it for ourselves. Well, yeah, once you see it for yourselves, you can't unsee it, and you can't tell them it didn't happen. That was pretty interesting, seeing that these things have maybe a sense of humor, or who the heck knows why the one creature smacked the other one in the head with a gopher or groundhog or whatever the heck it had. Well, what do you think? You ever heard any stories of these things interacting with each other with a bit of personality? Let me know what you think down in the comments, and I do appreciate you hanging out with me for another episode. I'd love it if you'd hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And the like button just threatened to put hot sauce in your coffee tomorrow morning. You better give them a good smack. If you've had an encounter with a Bigfoot or anything mysterious, I'd really love to hear about it. Drop me an email at cryptidmysterious@gmail.com, and I'll see you in the next one.